Okay, well, review time again today, and since I saw it recently, I thought I would review Scream 6. Directed by Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillett, or Gillett, however you pronounce that. The same pairing that directed Scream 2022. Scream 6 is notable for being set in New York rather than Woodsboro or Windsor College or Hollywood, where some of the other films took place. Also, this is the first Scream movie without Neve Campbell. No Sydney this time, though she is mentioned. Kirby from Scream 4, however, is back, and it's amazing how different Hayden Panettiere looks with different hair, in my view. Okay, so we're following the survivors from the last movie, known as the Core 4. Chad gives the group a nickname. It's hard to talk about the plot, really, because there are several spoilers to be dealt with here, and I don't want to give them away. The film does seem to be quite polarizing among fans. Some people love it, others not so much. And I can understand why. It does have a very different feel to it, though the meat of the story itself is quite similar to another entry in the franchise, but I can't say which one without spoiling it. The only character from the original Scream from the 90s here is Gale Weathers, and while she plays an important role, her appearance is little more than a cameo, at least in terms of screen time. Billy Loomis also shows up again as a hallucination rather than as a character, but he doesn't provide that much to the story. We know that Sam's his daughter from the last film. One of the biggest differences here, at least for me, is the darker tone of the film. It feels more like a horror movie somehow, possibly because of the increased brutality of the murders. At least one of the killings is uniquely painful looking and actually made me wince. Or maybe because the portrayal of Ghostface is particularly intimidating in this entry. It could also be because of the setting, of course. New York is a perfect place to set a horror movie, I think, and it's used brilliantly. From the opulence of the opening location, to the alleyways, to the high-rise buildings, to the park and the metro system, the city is a huge character in the movie and lends it a grittiness that other entries in the franchise often lack. There is also a scene which had me on the edge of my seat, which I didn't necessarily expect, particularly given the character involved, so that was kind of interesting. And there are many callbacks here to other entries in the franchise, which is very cool. The writers and filmmakers clearly love the series, and it shows and is appreciated by a fan of it such as myself. Having said all of this, of course, the movie is flawed. Now, it is a slasher movie and a Scream movie at that, so how much weight to give to these flaws is debatable, particularly given how Scream tends to poke fun at many of the tropes inherent to the genre. People surviving horrific injuries, people making dumb decisions, etc. I just think that some of the injuries in this one stretch believability. For example, there is one particularly brutal injury which would render the person unable to walk if they even remained conscious, leave alone what they managed to get up to in film. The attitude of some of the characters as well is odd. I mean, I understand the survive now, cry later idea, but it's taken right to the edge here, I think. It does add to the feel of the movie, of course, that the big city is an uncaring environment, etc., but it does stretch credibility slightly. Of course, a certain amount of escapism is inherent anyway in the slasher movie genre, particularly in a Scream movie, as I've said, so maybe that particular criticism is less than fair. I'm not sure, really. What I am sure of, however, is that the ending sucks. The acting at the end of the film The killer's reveal particularly is so utterly over the top that it almost wounds the rest of the film and the film that's come before it. The motive is fine for a Scream film. The brutality, the madness, all of that is pretty standard. But the way it's acted is bordering on sophomoric, really, in my mind. Now, this was clearly done for a purpose by the filmmakers. I mean, they're not ingenues at all. And the actors certainly have enough chops to play it differently if they chose to. But deliberate overacting is still overacting at the end of the day, and it just doesn't sit well with the darker tone of the rest of the film, almost taking me out of it to an extent, frankly. Also, the final battle doesn't last anywhere near long enough. One of the characters is virtually thrown away, which is a shame because it could have been an interesting situation. The aftermath, if you want to call it that, is pretty standard. A bunch of people with near-fatal wounds sitting around waxing philosophical about what just happened, and then everyone goes off to hospital and lives happily ever after. At least until Scream 7, which I'm sure will come in due time. So, in conclusion then, if, like me, you like the Scream series, you will probably enjoy this. It's a worthy addition to the series, and if you can look past its flaws, there is fun to be had here. I would imagine that the most polarizing part of the film, honestly, is the end, which is... it's such a strange tonal shift. And if you don't like these kinds of films anyway, then this is going to do little to change your mind, I think. However, and with all the above being said, thank you for watching this review of Scream 6. Please like, share, comment and subscribe, and all that other good stuff, and I will speak to you soon. Thanks very much for watching, and bye for now.